Hey there, welcome back. This is Carolyn Herfurth. I am so glad you are joining me for these conversations with leading businesswomen. I have had so much fun and have gotten such wonderful feedback about these conversations because they're the conversations I would be having, in the background anyway. And so I was inspired to want to record them and share them with you. And so if you hear something today, which I know you're going to hear something today you like, and that will inspire you, feel free to share it with one of your fellow women business owners. The conversations, the intention behind this, first of all, I want to tell you, these are unedited. So if there's any weird noise or anything, I apologize in advance. I wanted to get them out as quickly as possible. And the idea behind them, the intention, the spirit of them is to help you understand how other women business owners are handling this and also sharing some of their expertise, not in a pitchy way, but in a, this is me as an expert on this topic. So we've talked about things like connection and community and receiving and, oh my gosh, awakening. So we've talked the spiritual side, the business side, everything. And I'm super excited to have Leslie Grossman with me today. Leslie is one of the first people I met when I moved to New York 9 years ago. We were shoe shopping and I overheard her talking about Minneapolis, and she was going to be hosting an event there. And I go, I just heard you say Minneapolis. Is there anything I can do to help you? And it was just love at first sight. She is such an amazing woman. And Leslie's personal vision is a world where there's an equal number of men and women in top leadership roles of all organizations. And as an executive leadership coach, trainer, keynote speaker, and workshop leader, Leslie devotes all of her work to achieving this purpose. And she has created she created and is the faculty director of the Executive Women's Leadership Program at the George Washington University Center for Excellence in Public Leadership. That's a big freaking deal. She also spent 5 years as a chair and executive coach for Vistage, which I'm sure many of you have heard of. It's the largest global CEO peer advisory organization. I could keep reading and reading all the accomplishments Leslie has made over the years. And what I'll do is I'm going to keep it to the show notes so that you can learn more about her. And I'll also have links to the books she's written about linking out. She's a lot about connection and I don't want to say posse because I know you use another term for it, but she's all about connection and leadership, and you are going to find her delightful. Now, one last thing I want to say before we get into the conversation is y'all are going to love this conversation because we're going to talk about everybody's favorite future boyfriend or current boyfriend in your dreams, Andrew Cuomo. So, Leslie, thank you so much for being with me today.
Oh, I am so delighted to be here. Carolyn, what you are doing is so great. I want to thank you for all that you are doing for the women business owner community and have been doing since the day that I met you in the shoe department. So we've both been at it, and it's where we get our joy and fulfillment. So I want to thank you for that very much.
Well, we're mutual fans, obviously. So I want to talk about this leadership thing because obviously you have devoted your life's work to this right now. Like this is the focus, is leadership. And you wrote an article a week or two ago, probably a couple weeks ago, just talking about different leadership practices and actions. And I found it very interesting that you applied the lessons to things that Governor Cuomo has been doing. And so what I'd love to do is just start by talking about what each of those things are. And I don't want you to have to regurgitate the entire article because I can link to the article, I'm sure. But there are things that leaders have and qualities that leaders have. And I want to talk about that. And I want to talk about how we might be able to apply them as women business owners to to our businesses and to the people who are working for us, with us, around us, and the people we're serving in this crazy time. I've deemed that I would start a drinking game if I were 23 years old. Every time I hear the word unprecedented, I would drink. So I'm staying away from that word. But so what are some of the leadership qualities that you find so important that you've seen that Governor Cuomo has exhibited, and how this is going to be it's such a long, messy question. So now I really wish I was editing this, but you got it. Take it away.
I got it. I have it. And, but before I start to talk about that a little bit, what I would like to just remind everyone is that everyone that is leading their own business is a leader.
Yes.
And we need to think of ourselves that way. And I myself was a serial entrepreneur long before I became a leadership coach and all of that. In fact, most of my life I was running businesses. And I didn't realize till later that what made me, when I was really good at running my business, it was because I was really using these strong leadership traits. And when I wasn't doing such a good job, and there were moments, especially in crisis, that I wasn't being as good a leader as I could have been. So that's why I think it's very applicable. So when you look at Governor Cuomo, when I first sat in on his first press conference, I just hit me in the face. I said, these are all the things I'm teaching women, no matter what they're doing, whether they're running a business or whether they're in the corporate world. And he's just giving such a great display of what leadership means. So it is not just for public figures. I just want to make that clear. It's not just for governors, presidents, and leaders of organizations, for each one of us. Each one of us needs to look at our leadership. And I think we're innately good leaders, but it's the behaviors that sometimes get us in the way, especially when we are in fear. And we're all going through that now.
So what's an example of the behavior you see most that a woman business owner would exhibit when she's in fear?
Okay, well, one of the things that we forget about sometimes is to see what the long range vision is. What is our organization, our company going to look like when this is over? And we can create that vision because we need to think about it. When we're in fear, sometimes we're focused on, well, I might be out of business. Well, you know something? Words matter. And if we think that way and we use those words, we have a good chance that we will be out of business. But if we focus on, my vision is to have a stronger company, and maybe it's even doing things differently than we do now. Let's have that vision and let's share that with our team when we have employees and our customers, that we have a vision for the future. And that's one of the first things that Governor Cuomo did, was he saw a way out of this and said, I see us coming out of this. He laid that in front of us. He did not stay in the fear. He really focused on that, and that we would lose a minimum of lives. I'm going to save as many lives as possible by the actions that I take in the state. And that's the same thing for us as entrepreneurs. Think about how we, and share that vision of the future, being a company that survives this, not only survives, thrives. We may look a little different, but we are going to make it. So that would be one of the first things.
That's really, it's such a great place to start, isn't it? Because vision is everything. It's one of the first things I do when I work with a private client. It's like, what's your vision? And if she doesn't know, we spend time really teasing that out. And I think that is so important, because how many people listening to this have thought, what if I'm out of business when this is over? And you're absolutely right, Leslie, that thoughts become things. And we need to really, actually, you are the first person who told me about tut.com.
Oh, really?
Yes. And I became an Infinite Possibilities certified instructor much later. But I fell in love with him and his work. And I've seen him at Omega playing the Matrix. And then I became a certified trainer after that, because his work is so important. And it's exactly what you're saying here, which is you gotta watch your thoughts, because they do.
Exactly. And one of the things, as this is actually a good time to be thinking about that, thinking about what is my vision for my company. When you take a walk, your solitude walk by yourself, social distancing, be letting your mind wander. What do I want my business to look like after this? Is it the same? Is it different? How can I serve people differently based on what's going on? Allow your mind to go there. And you will actually, as business owners, that's where we come up with the opportunities, because as you know, and maybe others have said this, in every crisis is an opportunity. And it's been said many times that the Chinese word for crisis, well, two of the characters in that word for crisis actually mean opportunity. So we can get our heads there and see that the future is ours, but we have to be the one to create it. I forget who said this. I just found this note on my desk. The best way to predict the future is to create it.
Is to create it.
And it's in our power as leaders to do that. The future isn't done to us. Yes, we have obstacles, and yes, we have this is probably one of the most challenging obstacles we've had, but we can still overcome it and create what we want in the end.
Yes.
I'll share, if I can, a personal story very quickly. I think that you know, Carolyn, before I did the leadership coaching and all that, I had a marketing communications business, and that was, it was at different times very successful. We were almost a $3 million business back in the 90s. And then 9/11 happened. And actually, that was even preceded by the dot-com bubble bursting, which was not a good thing either. And so business started getting very difficult. After 9/11, I truly focused on what I wanted my business to look like. And I kind of was like, said, you know, I keep wanting to help women in my business, but it's not enough for me. And here, anybody that went through 9/11 went through a real reevaluation of what they were doing. And this is actually a good time for that as well. Yeah. And what I saw was that I want to help women grow big businesses. That's what I wanted. And from that time, another business that I created evolved, called the Women's Leadership Exchange. Yep. And that was out of the crisis of having me realize that my true desire was to really help women. And here's a way I could do it with a win-win. I could help women and create a business at the same time.
Yes.
So that was the evolution. That business ultimately, over 10 years, we did over 85 conferences around the country, and we had over 65,000 women come through it, and major corporate sponsors, because those companies wanted to reach women business owners and didn't know how to do it. And we gave them a vehicle to do it. So it's an example.
We've got this. Yeah. I love that. I love that question you're saying to ask yourself. You know, that is such an important, it's such an easy way to be able to help you start creating your vision. And just simply by asking your question, what do I want this? What easy for me to say. Oh my gosh. Do I need more coffee?
Well, the thing is, yes, it's an easy thing, but it does take time. I want women to be patient about it. Don't think you're going to ask that question and some people, it might come to them right away, but others, it may take some time to evolve in their minds. And keep a journal, write your notes. What matters to me? What fulfills me? How can I evolve my business more in a way that it fulfills me and serves people better? You know, there's a lot of questions like that you can ask yourself that may bring you to another place. May not. It might be your business is just fine the way it is. And that's good too. But it might evolve. Let's face it. Everything's online now, right? So whatever you're doing, some part of it probably needs to go online. Whatever part that is. That's just one thing. But there's going to be other needs. If you look at the healthcare, you know, all the different things that are going on right now, we will see other things. So reading, listening to Carolyn's podcast and others will help you tweak that. So vision is number one, and that's one of the first things. And I think that Governor Cuomo always sets out by talking in a positive way. You'll notice that. And when you're talking to your employees, by the way, which you should be talking to them every week at the very least, you should start off in a positive way with a vision, if not for your future, for just letting them know that you are working on the success of our business together. We are going to get through this. So that's number one.
That's really good advice. Even that bit about talking to your employees on a weekly basis and make it, what's the positive, and painting that picture without, well, I think we're going to talk about this, so I'm just going to let that thought go, because you probably have some more leadership practices here that we'll get to it. So sorry, we can't edit that part out, people.
Okay, all right. Well, it's good. It's all good. So okay, so you've expressed a vision, just like Governor Cuomo does, and then what he does is he shares a precise strategy to get there, to get to the vision, to get to what he set out. And he tells us what it is very clearly. Leaders need to tell their people how we're going to get there. Now, you might not have all the answers. He doesn't either. He has a whole team contributing to him. And that's what you need. Include your team in helping you get there. Be open to their ideas. Don't make them wrong. Listen to them. Create an open forum where they can express things. And if you don't have employees, you should have what I call an entourage, and what you refer to as a posse. It's the same thing. People that you trust, that you should be having conversations with and getting their thoughts on what you can do and sharing with them thoughts that you might have for them. Women supporting women. That's what we need to do. And but create a strategy for getting there. And it might be a changing strategy, just as his is, because you'll hear him, and he's talking to, we're his employees, so to speak. He talks to his executive team, but he talks to his audience every day. He tells us the progress that's being made, right? And that's what leaders do. Leaders do that with their team, with their employees, even with their customers, keeping in touch with your clients and letting them know what's going on all the time, how you're addressing this. So the strategy. Be clear.
And that's, I want to make a point about that, because one of the things I found, even before all of this, oftentimes a vision might change for a woman business owner, any business owner, but of course I work specifically with females, as you do, and support. And so the vision might have changed for them. And this is probably going to change the vision for a lot of people, this situation. But in regards to this second piece about sharing a precise strategy, you're right. We don't always have all the answers, and we don't always have an entourage, or we want, like, I love masterminding with, I have a circle of women I've been masterminding with for years, and we've actually expanded and changed that a bit. But I still walk away from those with ideas and not always answers. And so I also would recommend, if you don't have that precise strategy and you're walking away from the entourage conversations with ideas but not clear answers, I think it's really important to find a person who can see all of you, a coach, an advisor, a consultant, someone. I don't always think spouses are the most objective. Like, you really want someone who's objective, and that person is not always easy to find. And I know that's one of the reasons people go to you for that. People come to me for that, like the private client situations, because that strategy is obviously the part that's going to help get the vision, make the vision real. So anyway, I just wanted to add that.
No, it's a good add. And to tell you the truth, it was a coach that helped me see what my vision was in creating more women leaders in the world, and sometimes we get a sense of it, but we need somebody else to coach us along to it. So whether it is a professional or a very good neutral friend or advisor, that you can trust. But we do need, You know, that's another thing. Leaders don't do things alone.
No.
Never. And sometimes we we misunderstand that. We think that the leader has to have all the brilliance, all the relationships, all the everything. No, leaders have a group of people, entourage or whatever you call, to help them, not just their employees, to help, or their coach and all that. They all do. So you need to have that. And there's more resources now than ever with masterminds and groups, just like you have yours. I just started one through GW that we're meeting on Friday afternoons. Whoever wants to come in can come in and join and share what's going on for them. We have to help each other.
Yeah.
So I 100% agree with you, Carolyn.
Yeah, good. So what else do we need to know? What else is our America's Boyfriend doing that you think is the good leadership quality?
Well, and I want, there's so many, but one of them is always be honest and truthful.
Okay.
And that is something that he is with us. And that we are not seeing that everywhere. I'm not going to say where, but if you're watching the news, you know we are not getting the truth from everyone. But no. Governor Cuomo says the facts. He says it's going to be hard, but he gives us hope. So honesty with your team, with employees about what's going on, honesty but hope, you know, is really, really important. And I mean, a lot of us women, sometimes we want to be strong, and we'll say everything is okay, we'll be okay. And we in our hearts are worried about it. It's okay to say, I have concerns, but I'm working on it. We're working on it together. You know, we have obstacles. Yes, we lost some clients. We've lost some customers because of this. But together, let's figure out a strategy to move through this. And so those things are important.
Just the way you put that does feel so hopeful, because I know people have had clients, some people have had clients renege, you know, or bring down the amount of work. I know people who have lost like their biggest client who was, you know, a restaurant, like supplier to the restaurant industry. I mean, yeah, you're gonna have to deal with that. But I think the offering the hope and not just taking your ball home and, you know, quitting the game is such an important key. And I think it does give us opportunities to be more creative in all of this too.
That's right. Another thing I'd like to throw out there, which I actually didn't have on the list on the blog post that I wrote about the governor, but you've seen him doing it since, and that is negotiate. And I don't know if you've talked about that at all on any past podcasts, but that is a word that we need to do in this crisis, because I've been talking to some of my clients and they're overwhelmed, of course, as many of you are, by you've got your rent, you've got your people, you know, well, the governor has been out there negotiating to get all kinds of equipment, right? For people. He's trying to get them for less. He's trying to get people to give it to him. Well, guess what? We can do that too. So maybe you can't pay your rent, but you talk to your landlord. I mean, I went through that myself where I could not pay my rent. And at first my landlord said, sorry, you're going to have to pay. And I kept the conversation going from my heart about what the strategies I was doing and how hard we were working to keep it going. And then the landlord, and it was a woman, finally let it go. And so and also everything is negotiable. I learned that actually from one of my mentors, maybe you know her, Carolyn, Sharon Emick, who now runs a $20 million, $25 million business, but at the time had an insurance agency that was going down. And she taught me that I don't have to pay for everything I have a bill for. You're going through a crisis. Talk to them, or just if you can't get them on the phone, don't pay. I mean, you got to make a decision. If you have to put people on, what do you call it? Not letting them go. I forgot the word. Furlough.
Like you have plan or something? Oh,
yeah, furlough. Okay. I mean, sometimes that's the last thing we want to do. And if you went for the PPP and you might get the money. Hopefully you get the money to pay your people. But you know what? One of the mistakes I made was I stopped paying myself. I kept paying my people, but it went on and on.
Mm-hmm.
That was not good because I put myself in danger because of all my bills. So we have to be, so maybe you cut everybody's salary, and your own if you have to, or you furlough certain people that you have to, and fortunately they can get unemployment, hopefully fast. That was the way it was supposed to work. Or a furlough is a temporary thing.
Yes.
But we have to make those decisions because if you want to keep your business going, and those are tough decisions. And often we women, we will take care of everybody but ourselves. We have to take care of ourselves too. And I don't know if Governor Cuomo I think he's going on that show with his brother, right? I think that's taking, if any of you have seen that, his brother who's on CNN, the two of them are having this repartee. I think that's how he's taking care of himself because they have laughs about their relationship. So, and I think that he's somehow managing to have a little sense of humor in there. So we all need to do that too. We need to be able to laugh.
That's the authenticity thing too, right?
Yes.
So you're really seeing, it's actually one of the things. So I did a Zoom happy hour with some girlfriends the other night. They're all in corporate. I'm the only one who's a business owner, but they were talking about how much they love that. They don't love the homeschooling part, but they love seeing their clients and their prospects and each other in the home situation where people are wearing baseball caps instead of ties, and kids are running around in their underwear and coming in and saying, I gotta poop or whatever. Like Jimmy Fallon's daughter lost a tooth. And I think there's something that happens between Chris and Andrew Cuomo where it's like they're brothers, right? But that goes for all of us. Like you just said to me, and people who are listening to this can't see it, but you're like, oh, your background is really nice. Like the paint color is really nice. I'm not even in my own office. I'm like in a temporary office at my boyfriend's. But that authenticity is something I think people are craving and loving.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. And authenticity is, as you pointed out, a leadership trait. Yeah. Real great leaders are authentic. They allow themselves to be seen as human, that cry, that laugh, that get sick, hopefully not with COVID, but that we're not infallible. We are real people with feelings and hurts and families, and people do want to know that about you. And that's also brings me to making sure with your employees that you show them you care and you care about their families. So checking in with them every week. How are you doing? I like to use, and this I learned in Vistage, checking in on a 1 to 10 basis. How are you doing? How are you doing? And you might be a 3, you might be a 2. And people need the chance to say where they are and how they're feeling, so that they can get support. And we can role model that. I did that yesterday. I said to the group of one of my masterminds, I said, you know what, today I'm a 3. Let me tell you why. And I modeled it for them so that they could express where they really were too. And we need to do that for our employees. And leaders great leaders care about their teams. They care about their clients. Checking in with your clients. How are they doing? Thinking of new ways to help them. I basically have put out to all my clients that I'm here for you. I want you, don't worry about, we don't have any more sessions left. I don't care. I'm giving you sessions. Mm-hmm. This is my gift to you during the crisis. And I have been on the phone constantly. But I am so glad, and I'm not worried about it. When this is all over, they will continue to be my clients. Right. So, I think no matter what kind of business you're in, think about how can I reach out to my clients? How can I let them know I'm thinking about them and that I understand what they're going through? And it's not just about them paying you all the time, because some of them can't. And so how can you be of service, or how can you suggest things that they might do to keep their business going? So, and in essence, that's what he does. He's suggesting things for us to do, you know, and most of them are for our own safety and to stop the virus. And we have to be listening.
Yes. Oh, that is so, it's good. And yeah, Frank and I have been doing that on a daily basis. Like, how you feeling today? Scale of 1 to 10. But I think that's a really great thing for those with employees and the client thing. I've been checking with clients, probably not as far back as I could and should. And so now I'm inspired. Today is Friday, April 10th. You will get an email from me today, even though you'll be listening to this, you're listening to this later. But I think that's key and that's important. And I've checked in with a bunch, but not enough. So right. I love the idea of, I ran a business accelerator for 6 years, and I've had loads of people go through that. And I'm just going to offer a free Q&A. Let's get on, and whoever has questions, we can go through it. Everybody knows what the accelerator foundation is, and we'll be able to use that as a reference point. And I love that idea. Thank you, Leslie.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I mean, the thing that we have to remember is that sometimes as owners, when we are feeling fear, but we forget that our employees are just as fearful. And we have to be empathetic. And that is another leadership trait, is being empathetic. Really, and you know what empathy is? It's feeling what others feel, being able to put yourself in their place and think about what they might be going through. And I know I've heard that from some of my clients, that I've had to coach them on being more empathetic to their people, and realizing they're afraid to lose their jobs. They're afraid they're going to get sick. They're worried about their families. They might even have people that are sick. And we have to realize that they need our ear. They need us to understand and let them know that we understand what they're going through, and that we're there to support them through this. And that is even those that might go on a furlough. Don't just, if you have to put people on furlough, don't write them off. Stay in touch with them. Let them know you're thinking of them. Because guess what? Furlough is coming back when this is over. The idea is when the business gets back to business, that they come back. So you want to make sure you stay in touch with them. And that empathy of a leader is very, very important.
So let me ask you this. That's a good point. I want to shift gears just for a second. So because this is something some people have gone through in a way, like you've gone through something somewhat similar with your business being affected by something outside of your control. You might have more experience in this than other people listening to this, but we don't know how to do everything right. And so what if we make a mistake? What if we do something wrong? And I think some people might be holding back because they don't want to make a mistake, which I actually think is a mistake in and of itself. Like, I don't think we can just shrink and cower. I know the women listening to this are not shrinkers or cowers, but in case anyone's tempted or has a friend, what do we do? What if we screw up in some way? What about?
Well, guess what? We learn more from our mistakes than we learn from when things go right. So mistakes we're human. We have to go for it. We have to follow our instinct and our intuition. And it might be a mistake. The biggest mistake, as you pointed out, is not doing anything. That is a mistake. We have to do what we think is the right thing to do. And women have a tendency to be risk averse, mistake averse, right? Whereas men tend to not worry about it. They just keep going. And so it's in the mind, it's in our minds. We need to there's a mindset called a growth mindset. When the mindset is, I'm going to keep moving forward, I'm going to focus on my vision. I'm going to do what I think is the right thing to do, and I'm not going to look back. And that is a hard place to get, but affirmations and what we were talking about earlier, the universe, the messages we get from the universe to keep us going, we have to keep ourselves moving forward. And it's okay if you make a mistake. So don't worry about a mistake. Anything you do now, has got to be, is repairable, because the worst thing that happened was totally out of our control, totally out of our control. So anything that's in our control can only be better than what has happened to us now.
Yep, that's very true. And I think one of the things that some people might be struggling with, and I wrote an article about this a week or two ago, I can't even remember, 2 decades ago, which really was probably, 7 days ago, about how there's so much conflicting advice out there. And so I think if people are listening to people they admire, and one person is saying, don't sell, and another person is saying sell, or one person saying pay all your, dues and debts, and another person is saying negotiate, and, like those types of things can send people into that, like that place of just being, well, I don't know what to do, so I'm not going to do anything, or I don't know what to do. And I think it's so important to settle in and really sink into what your intuition is telling you on that.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
That's so true, Carolyn. And that's where meditation, walks by yourself, where you can process these different things that you're hearing and then say, what feels right to me? What feels right to me? Because you will, if you've heard both sides and you've heard different things, and you're absolutely right, that can be terribly confusing. Then you have to say, okay, which one feels more right for my situation? Yeah. What do I feel? I don't like to say, what do I feel more comfortable with? Because sometimes we have to do things that we're uncomfortable with back to move forward. But what does your intuition tell you that will end up being the best for you and your business? Ask that question.
Okay. I love that. So I just got a hit. So you've probably heard of or taken the Yale class on the science of being happy.
Yes. Well, I've taken not Yale's, but another one. Yes.
Okay. So we're taking the Yale one online right now, my Irishman and I. And one of the things she talks about is we're terrible at expectations, and our intuition is often wrong. But with that said, so it's back to that thing where it's like and so I think the class, we're only to week 3. I think the class teaches you how to get better at trusting your intuition and knowing when it's like maybe intuition doesn't come from your head. It comes from your like below the shoulders. Right. And so there have been so many times in my life where I'm like trying to make decisions about something, and I can feel, this is something a life coach taught me years ago. I can feel when I'm thinking, but I think it's my intuition, because it's in my head. I can literally go, oh, that idea is coming from my head. And I know that it's not the right thing for me to do until it's down in my body. And I feel the energy in the rest of my body. So I don't know what made me seem to think that, but I think if the conflicting advice is tough for someone.
Right, it is. Well, what I would urge people is follow your gut, which is, we know there's a brain in our gut, right? And a heart in our gut. But don't take, this is what I try to do. I try to get out of, be brave when I make that decision. In other words, I don't make it out of fear, because a lot of times when we are so frightened, we will make a decision that might not be the best for us. If we can look forward and keep our eye on the survival or thriving or whatever that is, and then say, I'm going to be brave. And I think this is a decision. Like maybe we don't want to have the conversation with our landlord, right? Because we're afraid what the landlord is going to say. And so then we don't have the conversation. If that's what's stopping us, that I would say is a mistake. But if we can say, I think the best thing for me is to negotiate my rent or say I can't pay it now, I'm going to be brave. I'm going to have that conversation. I'm going to script it. I'm going to write it down exactly what I'm going to say so that I can have courage to have that conversation. And then I think then we're making the right decision. So what I'm saying is often when we do it out of fear, we decide not to do this because we're fearful. That might be a mistake, so to speak.
That's a good distinction right there. Like you might be afraid to do something, but that's different than coming from a place of fear that drives a decision that isn't necessarily for your highest good or the high,
Right. Yeah. It's like the fears that we can overcome. There are things that we can overcome.
Yeah. A question that has always stuck with me, and I've repeated this, anyone who's ever listened to me before has probably heard this, but I was in a very, very deep place of fear. It was after I moved to New York, probably within about the first year of living here. And, the first 6-8 months was like, woo, fairy tale. And then I got really scared because of some stuff that had happened in my business. And I remember my coach at the time asking me, how long are you going to keep making decisions from a place of fear? And I said, I don't understand what you mean. And she goes, you're not making decisions from a place of power. You're making decisions from a place of fear. And I don't think she used the word force, but when I think about the David L. Hawkins book, Power versus Force, I put it in that context. And, coming from a place of fear and making decisions that like a place of desperation. Like if I feel desperate, then I should not be making a decision. If I feel like, wow, this would really help my business, or this would be really cool, or I could help a lot of people if I offer this, or if there might be some fear, but if it comes from, you know what, this is what I need to do, and it doesn't feel desperate. Right. That's how I've been able to distinguish between what you really, to get myself through those sticky times.
I love that. I think you're absolutely on target with that. That's right. And there's one of the things that everybody needs to know, and there's a lot of quotes from very famous leaders about this, it's that fear, we all have fear. It's natural that we should have fear, but we feel the fear and then we take action anyway.
Yeah.
We don't allow it to stop us, right? We don't wallow in it. We say, okay, I'm afraid, but we think about it and say, but I'm going to do this anyway.
Yeah.
And it was Churchill who said, the only fear, was it Churchill or FDR? The only fear we have is fear itself.
I think that's FDR. Oh, no, that might have been true. Oh, gosh, now I don't know which one. Both two amazing leaders, right?
They all had great quotes about fear. But think about past leaders and the decisions that they had to make, and ours are small compared to what great leaders have to make. And I'm not saying that it isn't any less important, because obviously it's our personal life. Our decisions are very important. But we just have to say, I'm feeling fearful, but I'm going to take action. The worst thing we can do is not take any action, right? That just allow ourselves to move into inaction. And that does not solve anything. Just sitting and following in it definitely doesn't.
I think it's Garen Hardy who says, just something about mustering up 20 seconds of courage. It only takes 20 seconds of courage to do that thing, make that move, make that call, whatever. It's like you can sit and stare at your phone, should I call my landlord? Shouldn't I? Shouldn't I? It's like, right. Oh, yep, gotta go. So 20 seconds of courage.
And I do want everyone to know that I have been in at least five times, probably more in my life, been in a place with my business, because I started my first business when I was 24 years old. And that was a long time ago. Where I've been in fearful a place, and I managed to get through it every time. And there is always good on the other end. We come out of this, and we have to keep our eye on that. And actually, every time I went through it, I ended up at a higher level, a better level, a happier level, a more fulfilled level. And so, having gone through it 5 times, I will tell you that I'm not worried. I am upset about this terrible crisis. And look, I don't have a lot of business now either. And my GW program got canceled because of it. We're delaying it, so I don't have that. I mean, we're all going through this, but I'm okay because I know that something great will come from this for me and for everyone that I touch.
I think that is a wonderful way to close out this conversation, because it does come down to that. I truly believe that. And you know, again, in the spirit of people who are saying, no, you need to fall apart, which is fine for some people, and feel things, which is also very good. But also, like, I do have this trust, because I love that you started your first business at 24, and you've been through big things like this 5 different times and always made it through better, out on top of the other end. I've probably been through it 5 times in the last, 15 years, 17 years that I've been in business. So I think your ratio of coming out on top, terrible situations coming out on top, I feel like, is much better than mine. But hey, here we're both here. We're both going to come out.
That's right.
And end out on a higher level. And that's my wish for every woman who is listening to this. Even if you're not listening to this, I still wish it for every woman business owner, because we show up in business differently. And if it's all right with you, I'm sure that you have a link to this blog post about the 9 leadership qualities that Cuomo has been exhibiting. It's such a perfect list. And I know that women can see themselves in them, and also see where maybe they're falling short, because I have found myself falling short in several of these. So I think it's a great reminder for us that this is such an opportunity. And I know that sounds like so Pollyanna, but I really think it is an opportunity for personal growth in all of this as well. Not just business growth, but also the personal growth, because asking those questions, why am I here? What can I be doing to help people? What's my vision for what's on the other side of this? Those things are just so important. And the more we keep asking ourselves those questions, or have someone who can ask those questions of us, I think the stronger we'll all come out as a business community, as a United States of America, of the world. So that's wonderful. Do you have, I know I said that would be a great place to end, but do you have any final words or a bit of advice that you want to share before we wrap up here?
I think that it's okay I just want to make sure everybody understands. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to cry. It's okay to go through that. But then after you've done that, move into action. Bring those leadership qualities to fore. Everybody has them in them, but often we're not aware of how important they are, and that this is a time that we have to show our greatest leadership. And we have it in our hearts, we have it in our soul, we have it in our brain, and just be brave, be courageous. We will get through this together. And even though we're all hurting now, there is light on the other side, a bright light for all of us.
Beautiful, wonderful. And if you really just want a model, it gives you another reason to watch Cuomo's daily briefings. You can see America's boyfriend in, exhibiting all of these qualities. We could have a quiz. You could have like a game, make a game of it. Okay, so on the April 10th news briefing, which leadership qualities did Andrew exhibit today? There you go. There's your new game. It's all yours.
I love it. Love it.
I love it too. All right, ladies, Leslie, thank you for joining me. And for those of you listening, I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to this. If there's something that you really got from this, and you think you've got a girlfriend, a sister, business owner, or leader who can benefit from what Leslie and I talked about today, please share it with her. She will thank you for it. And so will I.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
Well, you have a great day. Everyone stay safe and stay sane. And I'm just going to say I'm fumbling for the stop recording button. So there you go. Bye-bye.